Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to our 5th seminar in our Light Tackle Marathon. We're dropping videos every day leading up to our big Light Tackle sales event, which is going to be April 5th and 6th, which will feature big discounts throughout the fishing department and a ride and reel trade-in for Combos for Kids, which is going to benefit that association of, Combos for Kids. We're going to have some fresh barbecue, kids games and prices, so make sure you guys come in for that sales event, once again, April 5th and the 6th. You can also click on the link below for the full details on our sales event and know everything happening that weekend. We're excited to have Travis here with Schooled Up Charters. And today we're going to talk about choosing the right gear for the Chesapeake. I know we always have questions asked about what do you use for rockfish, what do you use for red drum, and we're going to focus primarily on your rockfish, tackle, and redfish. And Travis here has been doing this for a long time, guys. I mean, he does everything here in the Chesapeake. So Travis, let's start off with some of the reels here that we have here. We have some nice Daiwa reels here. And I know you use some of this stuff for your charters, and so you have a lot of experience with some of this stuff. What size reel do you use for the striped bass fishery?
For striped bass, I like to use anything from a 2,500 to a 3,000. Depends on manufacturer. Daiwa, they have a bigger size on some of their spools. They're starting to get more conformed. But on the BG, I've really enjoyed the 2,500. It's a very rugged, indestructible Rambo type reel. I've yet to break one.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy aluminum frame and whatnot, so that's great for, like you said, durability. And I know some of us have used a Fuego too, right?
Yeah, they're really nice to pair with more of a finesse, a lighter rod. So when you're jigging all day and you want to just feel the action, you don't really want to stress your joints out with a heavier reel. That's been the go-to, and they've really held up great. Everyone's using them. It's been great. I'm sure you don't really have much complaints about those reels. They're workhorses.
Yeah, and the biggest thing I will say too, I don't know if you agree with me, I feel like this is one of those reels for that heavy duty winter fishery with the aluminum frame. For those bigger fish, this will be a great option for that. And then I will say this will be a great reel for more of your summer type fishery, right?
Yeah, I mean, on my boat and even in my personal use, I pair the Fuegos and even the ballistics. I pair those on more of my 6.6 medium extra fast. Those reels, just like those rod and reel combos, like you said. And my BGs are when I'm beefing it up, I'm going to have a larger fish on the end. I want that durability and still have the smooth drag. The price point on these are phenomenal.
Oh, they're great. They're affordable. Anybody can get them, and they're great, like you said, workhorses. Now, when we're focusing on the redfish, I know you said, the reel is the most important thing on that piece of equipment. Let's talk about some of the options we got here.
So I've used both of these. I've had great success all the years hunting drum. One of the things we noticed very early on was you need to have smooth drag. Anyone who had a reel and it was a little clunky or the drag wasn't smooth, that's where you would see those break-offs. And you do not want it to fail at the moment of truth. You're catching sometimes on a good day 20 drum a day. You need a reel that's going to hold up and have the capacity. So the BG 4000s have been stellar, and I stepped up last year to the Saltist, and it's like driving a Lexus versus a Toyota. They're both high quality, but you can't argue with the smoothness and the durability. It's just great. It's really what you want in a price point you're willing to go, but you can't go wrong with either of them.
And both of these reels have a super smooth carbon fiber washers on them, so they're going to be nice and smooth on both of them. The biggest thing on the Saltist when you jump up to this price point is a new monocoque body, which is a one-piece aluminum frame compared to the side plate on these, which is going to be a lot more sturdy, but just as rugged as the BG. And like you said, the BG is just workhorse. Anybody can afford them. This is, like you said, a little bit nicer with some more features. It's going to feel a little bit smoother because of the Scion rotor, which is a carbon fiber rotor on there. So great options for, the redfish. And like you said, definitely going to have a nice smooth drag and a solid frame for those big fish, right?
Yeah, and I even think the power knob has come in handy when you have people fighting a larger fish like a drum. It just makes it a lot smoother in your hand, and you have less errors, because you know when you're hooked up on that big fish, you don't want to be focusing on grip or anything. You want that reel to work, and you want the client or yourself to have a good experience. And I find the power handle really does help out on the larger reels.
It's more comfortable.
Yes.
Now let's jump into some of the rods, and we'll go back over to our rockfish stuff to begin with a rod selection. We'll start with the Air Coastal here, also from Daiwa. That's an amazing rod that I think we all have used for a while now.
Yeah. I got turned on to this at one of y'all's big events a while back, and on my boat, I've used rods from $500 all the way down to ones on a budget, and this has held up to the abuse of having multiple clients on a boat. It works really well, I find, when you're using paddle tails, when you're using top water, even using an X-Wrap, which is subsurface, but when you're cranking it, you can still feel the hit, and we've caught rockfish up to the 35-pound range on these, and haven't had a problem getting them in. But it also works perfect for bottom fishing. You put sabikis on here, you can use it from bottom fishing up to with your paddle tails. When I get into more technical jigging, I want to move up to a rod that's a little more expensive, but that's to be expected. At the price point of this, it still does it, but if you're trying to get that finesse, you want the extra
And this
fast.
is where that comes in. This is one of those Daiwa Kage rods. And this is going to be, like you said, the more higher end blank, more sensitivity.
Like high modulus.
High modulus, and it's still the same taper, same action, 6.6. Extra fast on that.
They got the Fuji guides.
Yep, so it's going to be nicer. And this is like the rod you said you would want for someone that's looking for more of that sensitivity when we're doing that technical jigging, right?
Yeah, this is a great combo. You get this rod, maybe you get a Fuego or even a BG, and then you could do the same with this, and you have a nice 1-2 punch when you're out in the water. I never want to be caught with just one rod, so with two, this would be a great combo for your rock fishery. I would probably put maybe a paddle tail on here and a jerk shad on this rod.
Now I got a question for you, which this is one of the most asked questions, I will say, from most of the guys getting into it, or even just people that, have done it for a while. Rod length and power. What is your preference, let's say a multi-purpose rod for most of the year? Let's talk about, let's say summer to the fall, which is, I think, when most people are out there. What's your preference on the length and the power?
So personally, I would say for most, it's medium. That's the easy one. When you get the fast and extra fast, that's when it gets a little tough. The fast will be more forgiving, and I think with paddle tails, top water, jerk shads, all that stuff, it'd be fine. I prefer the extra fast, but when you use the extra fast, if you're new, maybe it's a child fishing, you're running the risk of breaking the tip, but the performance is, you cannot argue the performance. So if it was me personally, I would want medium extra fast as my go-to, but there is a place for medium fast, and when I get into the larger fish, not to go off topic, I usually go medium heavy fast. I don't really go sometimes into that extra fast.
And like you said, it's one of those things where I think just keep in mind with the extra fast on high sticking the rod.
Yes.
Just be a little mindful about it. But performance-wise, like you were saying, that's the way to go.
Most of my issues when I see an extra fast tip break is the fish has been landed. If it's not being handled properly, the reels, the bail, like if you're ever on the boat, my buddy LJ makes the GI jigs, the first thing he tells you is to open that bail, and the fish makes a sharp move and the tip breaks. It's never the fight of the fish.
Right.
It's just human error.
Correct.
So,
and that's the one thing with that. Remember, guys, performance-wise, we always talk about that extra fast. And most of these rods are going to handle what? Anywhere from they're rated to maybe 5/8 or so, but you can go a little bit heavier, don't you?
I always go heavier. I really don't pay much attention to that. I've used up to 1.5 ounces on these, and I just ask the people more. We're jigging. We're just dropping down. We don't have to make an aggressive cast. So to me, it's more of the cast. You do get an issue, as you know, if you have too heavy of a weight. You can have some bow in that line, so you're not feeling. But they will work. I find I like 3/4 to 1 ounce jigs if I just had to pick one for most days on the bay, but it depends how shallow you are and all that. But if we're just open water jigging. As far as length, when I'm jigging, it's a little. I'm a little oddball with that. Like I know me and a few people, I go all the way down to 6'3" sometimes. But I would say 6'8" to 6'6" to 6'8" is probably the sweet spot for me for medium extra fast. And I believe that's right about where these come in at. This one's 6'6", and I think this one was 6'8". So this one actually might be 6'6" too.
So let's jump, like you said, into some of the rod selection for the bigger stuff. And that's not too complicated. I know we talked about this before. It's more about the reel than the rod, right?
Yes, I would agree. If we're talking about like red drum or a fish like a cobia, the rod, you just need it to not break, and it needs to be able to handle it.
A little
the smooth
backbone,
drag
right?
Yeah, the smooth drag of the reel is where I'd be investing my money if it was an issue of dollars and cents.
And this is Daiwa Air Coast, so they make them in different lengths.